It serves as a perfect segue to our next guest, which is, who is Wim Kopmans, Key Account Manager, Industry and Energy at Allers Logistics. Wim, welcome.
Thank you, Adnan, and good morning, everybody. And thank you for welcoming me to this webinar. So looking forward to having a great discussion.
Wim, Allers has been quite active in helping clients decarbonize their supply chain, decarbonize their operations. So which industries are you most active in, and which industries do you see as the most active ones who are looking to decarbonize their operations?
Yeah, there are basically a few. Of course, the energy sector itself, but that's already going on for a longer time. You see there that there is a lot of investment already for many years in wind and solar projects, and this is still continuing and going on. But recently we see more also of a trend of really investment in heavy industries, where that's these heavy industries are really looking to clean up their production methods and their installations. And these are industries like, for example, the steel sector or the cement sector, also the chemical sector, and so on. And so they really are looking to invest and clean up their production processes. And we see that this is really now in the recent years is really taking up speed, and it's moving forward. Several of those projects have really kickstarted and have gone ahead, and there are still a lot of other projects planned to go ahead in the near future. So yeah, definitely heavy industries, and there they are implementing different technologies. For example, hydrogen is one of them, where it is looked at, because hydrogen has the facility to really temporarily store energy, and if you can link that then with a renewable energy source like wind or solar, and then temporarily store the energy and link that to an industrial site, which requires basically permanent flow of constant baseload power. That is something that is interesting, and that we see really going forward. And there's a lot of really projects planned in that regard. So definitely heavy industries, but also of course our own sector. The logistics sector is also of course responsible for substantial amounts of CO2 emission in the world. Also there, like Thomas already mentioned, carriers are looking into optimizing their fleets, making it more energy efficient or use different fuels. Also in the land-based transportation, you see that also there technologies are being developed to use lower carbon fuels for trucks or even electric trucks. So that's, I think, in my view, the main sectors where that investments are being made and where that things are moving forward to decarbonize.
And as a project forwarder, what is the role of the project forwarder in this case?
Yes. So of course we, as a freight forwarder, we are asset light. So we don't have our own trucks, we don't operate our own vessels, but we see ourselves more as a facilitator for our customers or an advisor for our customers to really look in the market what are the best solutions to transport their cargo and to evaluate different scenarios of transporting their equipment. And this can be, for example, to move cargo which is first intended to move by road, to shift it to barge transportation or to rail, which is of course more CO2 friendly. That's a possibility. Or we look to combine different lots on a certain transport methods to improve load efficiency, for example. And besides that, what we also do is that we are using digital tools to really measure what is the CO2 emission of different transport methods or different transport scenarios. And we make this available to our customers so that they can make a more informed decision. And so they can basically evaluate, and we also show that to them then, evaluate what are the cost of the different transport methods, what is the CO2 emission, what is the transit time, and based on that, they can make a more informed decision. So that this is what we see as our role in this, to really guide our customers towards making the right decisions, basically.
Yeah, Wim, as I mentioned before, I'm mostly focusing on the rail sector so far, and there is a decarbonization discussion taking place there, of course, like in the whole supply chain. And decarbonization is a buzzword, let's say, for a good purpose, I hope, currently. But there are a lot of discussion about the costs as well. Who will bear the costs, and whether they should be government-driven investments, whether they should be private investments. How does this discussion develop in the project cargo sector, and are companies willing to pay to decarbonize?
Yeah, that's of course a major challenge, of course. And we see, especially, I think we can really say Europe is the front runner in this decarbonization move. And it's in that regard substantially pushed by government to decarbonize. You have in Europe the European Green Deal, which then has a lot of different practices to support that. And yeah, there you see that indeed for these decarbonization projects, often there is government funding needed to go ahead and start such a project. And we see that this is indeed the case. So indeed, often these projects are government funded, but then still, of course, it requires still some investment from the company itself and from the producer. Of course, the end product then doesn't necessarily become cheaper. And of course, the supply chain today is global, it's not local. And so our European companies, of course, also compete with global competitors, which might have a different view on decarbonization. So it's a complex challenge, and in that regard, the European Union has developed some mechanisms to try and protect, let's say, also the European market. Like recently, and this is something which is in the process of being implemented, which is the CBAM mechanism, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, in which basically, if a European buyer buys a product outside of Europe, a product which is, for example, carbon intensive like steel, this buyer and also this producer has to demonstrate that this product was produced with an environmentally friendly practice. If not, there will be a carbon price levied on that product, and so that will increase actually the cost to import that product into Europe. And by doing this, the European Union intends to basically create a more level playing field or a more competitive landscape also for the European companies. But this is something which is in the process of being implemented. It's not yet there. And the target is to have this in place by 2026. But we will still have to see if it really functions, because today, in today's world, there are so many things changing. It's decarbonization, where that's different governments around the world have different views on this. You have a lot of geopolitical events constantly happening, a lot of markets and supply chain disruptions happening. Also, for example, in the United States, with the Biden administration, there was the Inflation Reduction Act pushing towards more decarbonization as well. But now again, we have a changing administration in the US. So there are constantly a lot of evolving factors. And so that's a big challenge. And we will have to see if indeed, which will be the impact. And keeping this all in mind, it doesn't really look like this will push the costs lower. On the contrary, it might push the prices higher.
Because it's a complex process from what we understand, so it's normal for the price to go up.
Yeah, and it also will require a bit of a shift within the supply chain. It's been known to adapt to all different scenarios and factors affecting it. As you mentioned, certain geopolitical issues that have been going on for longer than a year, or even longer. So how do you see the supply chain shifting and adapting to these new circumstances?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very complex task, especially for our customers and for the supply chain team of our customers, because we have a very rapidly evolving world, and so in that regard, I think it's just the message to our customers is to be very vigilant and to constantly follow what happens, because what is in place today can be completely different in the next year, because I mean, different governments around the world have a different view on the decarbonization. So it's a big challenge. There is no easy answer to that, I think. It's just a matter of being dynamic and creating a dynamic environment or supply chain with plan A, plan B, plan C options. Of course, there we are there again as a freight forwarder to also help our customers to evaluate all these different parameters, shipping costs, CO2 emission, what is the impact of this CBAM import tax, for example, and to help them really make the right decisions. So very complex, not an easy answer to that, I think.
Yeah, and as I understand, it's different regionally. The pace of development and implementation of different regulations is different from region to region, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Perfect, Wim. Thank you again to you as well and to all our guests for this information, for all the information, for everything that's been said today and that's been introduced to our viewers and listeners.